In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to use formulas in Notion. Specifically, we're going to be covering the if formula today, which is one of the most powerful formulas that you could learn to use in Notion. I'll be showing you how you can use that in a classroom scenario where we can assign grades automatically. We'll be creating a personal habit tracker where you can automatically create visuals like this at the end. The third scenario is where we're going to be combining a task, routine, and an appointment schedule and producing a red, amber, green status automatically at the end of it. And then finally, we'll be covering visual progress bars in Notion, which I believe really showcase the power of these if formulas in Notion. So if you're ready to supercharge your Notion, then stay tuned because we're starting right now. In scenario 1, we're going to be looking at a classroom example, and we're going to use the if formula to work out whether a student has passed or failed, what grade the student has got based on their percentage score, and then finally, we're going to work out the class ranking that student has got. So let's go ahead and work out whether a student has passed or not. The first thing you need to do is create a column and change it into a formula field. Next, we'll click on the cell. So let's go ahead and start typing in the formula. And as you can see, as soon as I've done that, Notion has automatically produced the operator if. We'll go ahead and click that. Now, the next thing we want to do is select the column that we want to be able to compare the statement with. And in this case, that column is our test score. So let's go ahead and start typing that out. And as you can see, as soon as I've done that, Notion has given me the option to select this test score property. Properties is just another way of saying which column do you want to select. And in this case, it is a test score. So we'll go ahead and click that. The next thing we want to do is tell the formula what range we want to compare with. So what I mean by that is if the percentage is either less than or greater than or different combinations of that, we want to be able to state that over here. So in this case, I want to be able to say that if the percentage is greater than equal to 50%, or in this case 0.5, because that's how we would put it into a formula rather than 50. So the next part of the formula is saying if this statement is true, then what value do we want the formula to return? So in this case, we want to be able to say if the percentage is greater than equal to 50%, we want the formula to return the value pass. But if the test score is less than 50%, then we want the formula to be able to return a fail value. And the last thing we want to be able to do is close off the statement, because the if formula starts off with the brackets and it needs to end with the brackets as well. Let's go ahead and add that. And as you can see, as soon as we've done that, two things have happened. One is that the done button has become active, which means there's no errors within the formula. And the second thing is in the background, Notion has already automatically produced the result of the formula. So you can already see a quick preview of what it's going to be doing. So we'll go ahead and now click done. And as you can see, it's now produced a pass and a fail value. And let's just quickly go ahead and check whether that formula is working or not. So we know that 100% is more than 50%, therefore that should be a pass. 45.5% is actually less than 50%, therefore the formula has correctly produced a fail value. And then the other two are more than equal to 50%, therefore they should be represented as passes. So in this case, we have very quickly produced a formula that is now automatically showing us whether a student has passed or failed. So just before we move on to the next column, let me just quickly create a code block and just paste the formula in there so you can see what it looks like. And I'll add a quick caption to this as well so we know what the formula is for. And don't worry, you don't have to type this out yourself. I'll put a link in the video description below for this template. So you can simply click on it, you can duplicate that, and you can also just copy paste it straight into your own Notion. And I'll do that for all the formulas we're going to go through today. Now let's go ahead and work out the grade. So once again, I want you to create another column, make it a formula column. Now let's click into it. And again, we'll start off by opening up an if formula. So again, in order to be able to work out the grade, we need to know what the test score actually is. So let's go ahead and select the test score property. Now we need to give it a range for the grades. So let's just make that up. So in this particular example, I want to be able to say that if the grade is greater than or equal to 90%, then I want the formula to return a value of A+. But if that's not true, then I want to be able to create another if formula. And again, I want to be able to say, well, in this case, if the test score is greater than equal to 80%, then I want the formula to be able to return an A minus. Let's go ahead and do that. But if neither of those two statements is correct, then I want to do another if formula. And again, I want to look at the test score. And then I want to say, well, if the test score is simply greater than or equal to 50%, then I want the formula to return a value of C grade. And if none of the above three conditions are met, then I want the formula to return a value of U. So this is a nested if formula. And what that basically means is you have more than one if statement or if formula within the same formula. So now let's go ahead and close the brackets, because every time we open a bracket for the if formula, we need to have the same amount of brackets being closed. So in this case, we have three if formulas, so we want to have three brackets closing. 1, 2, 3. And as you can see, as soon as we've done that, it's recognized that there's no errors within the formula. We can see the done button has now become highlighted, and again we can see in the background the formulas are now working. So let's go ahead and click this. Alright, so let's just do a quick sense check to make sure the formula is working correctly. So let me again create another code block and paste the formula in there so we can see it at the bottom whilst we're working through this example. So let me go ahead and now paste the formula into the code block. And then I'm going to create a space every time the if formula starts again, just so that you can see how the if formula is being formulated. And we'll close it off with 3 brackets. If you have a complex formula like the one that we've got now, it's always helpful to be able to see it in this format, especially if there is an error within the formula. This helps you to be able to troubleshoot it a lot easier. So now that we've got the formula laid out in this fashion, let's just go ahead and see if this formula is looking good. So the formula is returning an A plus for when the percentage is 100%, and the formula says if this test score is more than 90%, it should be A plus, so that looks to be working great. The next is a U grade has been given when the test score is 45.5%, so you can see that all of our ranges mean that if anything is less than 50%, the formula should return a U grade, so that's looking good. An A minus, so that should fall between this range of the formula, and that seems to be working correct, because if it's greater than 80% but less than 90%, it should be A minus. And because this is 89%, that's A minus. If I just quickly change this percentage to 91%, you can see the formula changes to A plus. So that looks to be working great. Okay, so now that we've got the first 2 columns populated, let's go ahead and work out the class ranking. Once again, we need to make sure the column is a formula. Then we'll click in the cell and we'll start creating a couple of different if formulas nested together, because once again, we need to be able to put down a criteria to tell Notion what do we think a class ranking of 1 means, 2 means, 3, 4, and 5 actually mean. So let's start off with the formula. We'll just do a simple if formula to begin with. But this time around, rather than using the test score column to work out the class ranking, we're going to use the grade column to be able to work it out. And what that means is that instead of selecting the test score property or the column, we want the system to be able to select the grade column. And we want to be able to say that if the grade is equal to A plus, then we want the formula to be able to return a value of class ranking 1, and we'll give it a bit of an emoji as well actually. So the way we do that is you simply press a start and a semicolon on your keyboard, and it should open up a window like this, and I'm going to give it a winner's cup emoji, and then we'll simply close this window, come back into the formula, and we'll close it with inverted commas. And then, so rather than finishing the if formula there, once again, we have to repeat this if statement for every single ranking we want to be able to have within the table. So in this case, I'm simply going to copy this, and then I can paste it in there, and I can just simply change the criteria. So in this case, if the grade is equal to A minus, then I want the formula to be able to return a value of just rank number 2. Then we'll copy that again, and we want to go all the way down to rank number 5. So we'll go ahead there. This time around, we'll make it a B grade, and B grade means the ranking is number 3. We'll paste the formula again. This time around, we'll just go ahead and say if the grade is grade C, then we want the ranking to show up as number 4. And then finally, we'll do one last formula in this sequence. If the grade is U, then we want the ranking to be 5, and then we'll do another emoji, we'll do a warning sign. Let's close this window off. And now we want to be able to say, what should the formula do if none of these conditions are met? And in this case, we simply want it to return a blank value. And finally, we need to be able to close off the formula. So for every if statement we've got in the formula, we need to have a closing bracket. So in this case, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Therefore, we need to be able to have 5 closing brackets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And there you go. Let's press done. And that looks really good. Let me just create a code block again and show you exactly how the formula is working. Let's paste the formula into the code block, and I'm going to put every single if formula on a different line, so you can see how easy is it to be able to work out what the if formula is when you have it laid out in this fashion. So let's just walk through it one more time. So the basic rule of thumb is the number of if statements you need is basically the number of times you need the formula to be able to work out something different. So in this case, we have 5 different grades that we want the formula to be able to use to be able to give us a different ranking. If we had 4 grades, or if we had 10 grades and we wanted 10 different rankings, you would have to repeat this if formula exactly how we've done it now and just keep repeating it until you get to the 10th ranking. And in each case, what you need to be able to do is say, what is the criteria, which in this case is the grade should equal something, then return the value 2, then return the value 3, then return the value 4, and so on and so forth. So that concludes our scenario 1. So in this case, for a given number of students with a test score, we've managed to be able to work out what the pass and fail rate is. We've then assigned a grade against each of these percentages, and then finally we've given a ranking to each of our students. In scenario 2, we're going to be producing a personal habit tracker. So we're going to have each day of the week as a row, and then each column is going to be the different things that we are actually tracking during the week. And then we're going to use the if formulas to be able to give us a motivational statement, much like this, along with emojis. So let's start off with a blank table, and I'll show you exactly how I go about and create this table. Now remember, you can have as many of these columns as you want, and you can obviously rename them to be whatever habit that you're actually tracking. So this is just one example. So the way we can use this habit tracker is to say, well, on any given day of the week, how many of these activities have I actually completed? And every time I complete an activity, I can simply go ahead and click the checkbox. So let's go ahead and create a formula that automatically generates a motivational message depending on how many of these activities we've actually completed during the day. Now this if formula is going to be a little bit different than the one that we've just gone through when we were going through the class example, and that's because unlike the class example, we don't actually have any percentages or numbers to be able to use as a range for our if formula. So let's just go ahead and create a simple if formula and return a value when only the meditation field is populated. So we'll open this up, we'll start our if formula, we'll select the operator, which is the if formula. Next, when we click into it, we'll get a list of all the columns within the table. So in this case, we want to be able to track the meditation, so we'll click on that. Next, we have to give it a range. So in this case, we want to be able to say that if the meditation field is checked or is true, then we want the if formula to be able to return a value. So we'll do it equal to the value true. Now the reason we use true in this case is because a checkbox is either true or false. So it's either checked or is not checked. So it's very binary, it's either or. So in this case, we want to be able to say that if the meditation checkbox has been ticked, i.e. it's true in this case, then we want to be able to return a value of woohoo, and we'll give it an emoji. Let's just give ourselves a badge, and then we'll close brackets. So that's what the formula will return if we have ticked the meditation activity. But if we haven't ticked it, then we want the formula to return something different. So we want to be able to say, oh no, keep trying, and let's close the brackets. And then because it's only one if formula, we only need to close the statement once, and that should work. Let's go ahead and click done. So as you can see, using this simple if formula, we have managed to create these two different statements. So the reason why the first one is saying woohoo is because the meditation column is ticked or checked for Monday. Now if we go ahead and uncheck this, you can see the formula changes back to, oh no, keep trying. So you could just leave the statement as that. Now it totally depends on what you're actually looking to do with the formula. Now another thing we can do is create an if formula where two of these conditions are met. So in this case, we want to be able to return a positive value when both the meditation and the cycling column is ticked. So let's quickly see how we can do that. We'll just go back into our formula. What we can do is we can nest an AND formula in there. We just put it in there. So we've got the start of the end statement. So we're saying that if the meditation column is true or checked, and if the cycling column is checked, then we want to be able to return this value. And if neither of them are checked, or if one of them is not checked, then we want to be able to return the value don't give up. So let's see if that works. So if I go back into my table, let me just uncheck the cycling. You can see that changes. And that's because the if formula only returns a positive value if both the meditation and the cycling is ticked or checked. So if I check that, populates again. If I undo the meditation, you can see it goes back to a don't give up message. So I'll check that back. We can open up the formula again and we can add a couple of emojis in there. So that looks good. And then we'll close that. So as you can see, that's how easy it is to be able to update what the formula returns. And the don't give up will create this sort of sandglass. So we'll go into the statement and we'll open it up and we'll search for time, and then we can select this particular one and we'll close it, and there you go. Now instead of the formula returning a positive value if both the meditation and the cycling is ticked, we could use the OR function instead of the AND function and do exactly the same thing if either OR value was actually ticked. So let's just see how we can quickly do that. I'm just going to copy over the formula, paste it in there, and I'm simply going to replace the AND function with the OR function, and then I'm just going to press done. So what this is looking to do is say if the meditation or the cycling column is ticked, then return a positive value. So in this case, both of them are ticked, therefore it's returning a positive value. If I untick one of them, you can see it's still returning a positive value because we're using the OR function. And if I do it the other way around, it's still returning a positive value because it's either or. At the same time, you can see the formula where we're using the AND function. It's now changed into a negative because both these have to be ticked for the AND function to be returning a positive value. So I hope you found this useful. This is a very quick way of using checked or tick boxes with the if formula to be able to return some positive and negative values. I find this really useful, especially within the habit tracker, because it just gives you a good message at the end instead of just seeing tick boxes. I'll just go ahead and add all these formulas in the code boxes below for reference. In scenario 3, we're looking at a schedule that contains a combination of tasks, routines, and appointments. We have a start date and an end date. We can work out the day of the month using different formulas, using the date formula and then using the day formula, and then we're going to be using a combination of a nested if formula to then be able to work out what day of the week it is, and then create a custom date where we've got the day of the week combined with the date. Then we can use further columns to be able to work out the year and the number of days remaining between two different dates. And then finally, based on all of these formulas, we can use an if formula to be able to tell us whether something is delayed or it's on track, or it could potentially be delayed, i.e. whether it's red, amber, or green. So I've actually covered this entire setup and a step-by-step walkthrough in a different video that I'll put a link to in the video description below. So please do check that out if you want to be able to set this up and learn how to be able to do that. But I just wanted to be able to showcase it here because this is yet another powerful example of how we can use the if formula within Notion. So do check out the video. In scenario 4, we can see how the if formula can be used to be able to generate these beautiful progress bars with so many different examples, both using symbols and also using emojis as well. So once again, I'm not going to be covering this in detail in this particular video, but if you're interested in learning how to create these using the if formula, then please do check out this video here, and I'll also link it in the description below, where I walk through step by step exactly how to create each and every single one of these progress bars using the if formula. So I hope you gained some value from this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions, put it in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next video.